A year point like. Good evening, Mia Gradney here in the KHOU 11 newsroom with breaking news. We are following a deadly chemical release at the Pemex facility in Deer Park. This just developing in the last half hour or so. And as we take a live look as Air 11 flies over the facility, you can see the response to this chemical release. Several fire trucks there on scene, as well as officers. Again, this is a chemical release, so you're not seeing any fire per se, but you are possibly going to see some flaring. At least that's what we've been notified about, according to authorities. We know one person is dead, several others injured. Another person had to be taken to the hospital, working to find out more about their condition. And we're also working to learn more exactly about what was released. Now, this first was brought to our attention. We saw that Sheriff Ed Gonzalez had tweeted about it. Want to share with you what information he relayed within that tweet. That tweet crossing X, I should say, instead of tweet, that post crossing X at 6:30 this evening. And according to the Deer Park Office of Emergency Management, the incident was contained to the Pemex facility and that there was no threat to the community. However, the city of Pasadena has said and confirmed it was a hydrogen sulfide release. Going to share a little bit more information about what that chemical is in just a moment. They issued a shelter in place for areas north of Spencer Highway. That's within city limits. City officials there telling residents to go inside. This is what a shelter in place means. Go inside, close all their windows and doors, and turn off their air conditioner until an all clear is given. That's being done as a precaution, again, as we work to find out more about this chemical release. And just looking at the live imagery that you're seeing right now, I do see someone on a gurney. This is quite possibly another person who was at the Pemex facility and affected by this chemical release of hydrogen sulfide. Again, several people were injured. Sadly, one person died, another person hospitalized. But this was a chemical that was released in the air, and we know that it's several different facilities there in this part of Deer Park. They are dealing with a number of different chemicals and chemicals that can often be very dangerous considering their use or the circumstances in the moment. According to the TCEQ, and that's the Texas Commission on Environmental Quality, they have information posted about hydrogen sulfide and what we've been able to collect and gather just in the last few minutes. Hydrogen sulfide is a colorless gas that often smells like rotten eggs. It is produced both naturally and by the human process, in this case, most likely. It's emitted by volcanoes, sulfur springs, swamps, and from natural gas and crude petroleum. It's also a byproduct of operations including sewage treatment, landfills, pulp and paper mills, and other operations. Now, this is the part that really caught my attention. And again, this is information I'm sharing from the Texas Commission on Environmental Quality, or the TCEQ. Exposure to high levels of this chemical, hydrogen sulfide, can affect the respiratory and neurological systems. The odors are noticeable at low concentrations and can cause indirect health effects, which should improve when exposures ceases. And again, some of those indirect health effects are headache, nausea. So if you are watching or you have a loved one that lives near that area and suddenly they're even experiencing some of these symptoms, you might want to advise them to seek some type of medical help as well. We know that obviously there was some extensive exposure here with this chemical release at the Pemex plant in Deer Park, confirming that one person has died, one person has been hospitalized, and several others injured as well. We have a crew who are headed to the scene at this facility in Deer Park to learn more, gather more information, learn exactly what happened with this release, how this unfortunate situation has now taken place, and that we are talking about someone losing their life as a result and several others being affected as well. Again, several ambulances there on the scene at the Pemex facility in Deer Park as we continue to look at the live imagery from Air 11 as well. Just from experience, from covering these plants and emergency situations at them, plants, refineries, all of these operations, we do know that they have an on-site response team. For emergency situations, everything from fires to chemical releases like we are seeing play out this evening. There is an internal response crew that is trained and has continuous training to respond to these very incidents. And then obviously you have the surrounding agencies that respond as well. And we are seeing quite the response here this evening as a result. This is a very serious situation, of course, with one person who has died. It's very early on, so we have yet to learn information as to who these individuals may be, what roles they may have at the Pemex facility. That's going to be information that we're going to work to gather for you this evening as well. And if you can see there, we were told that there would be some flaring as a result because this is a chemical release. This isn't an explosion. This isn't a fire. This is a chemical release. And from information that we've gathered from the TCEQ, this is often an odorless chemical until it is at a great amount, and then you can smell a very distinct smell as well. But again, we are watching the situation. We are working to find out more information for you, but wanted to come on live here to bring you the very latest and let you know what has transpired yet again in the community of Deer Park. Of course, Deer Park having just dealt with in the past month or so that massive natural gas explosion. And here we are yet again dealing with another emergency in Deer Park, this time at the Pemex facility. And this time another deadly incident with at least one person dead on site at the facility, another injured, another hospitalized, I should say, and others injured as well. And we can see vehicles coming and going. Perhaps the situation not as grave now because we aren't seeing people rushing the ambulance, flying out of the facility there. So hopefully those who needed that immediate medical attention are receiving that. Again, if you're just joining us, we are following a deadly chemical release at the Pemex facility in Deer Park. One person is dead, one person hospitalized, others injured. We have a crew on the way to the scene to find out more information. And as you can see, Air 11 also zooming out live now to give you a broader view of this facility. The Pemex facility itself, I believe, is a Mexico-based, Mexico-related company, and it is a very large company with several workers at this one facility, a massive employer in the area. And you can just see the expanse and the size of this facility itself. Again, we're going to be working to find out just how many employees were impacted by this chemical release of hydrogen sulfide and what other information we can find for you. We're going to leave this imagery up for you. Hopefully our ground crews will get there on the scene shortly and we'll be able to bring you an update and even more information. But for now, we're going to leave you with the imagery here at the Pemex facility, the site of a deadly chemical release, that chemical being hydrogen sulfide. I'm Mia Gradney. We'll be back a little bit later with more information for you. Back again. I know we just signed off a couple of seconds ago, but we're learning new information. So we wanted to come back and bring you the very latest. Very important here as we follow this deadly chemical release at the Pemex facility in Deer Park. We've learned that Deer Park has issued a shelter in place for all residents in the city of Deer Park. Shelter in place. This means that you need to be indoors. You need to close all doors, all windows, turn off your AC system as well. Something here very important to note, that the city of Deer Park says that their emergency notification system is experiencing some issues, some difficulties right now. So what you should do in this case is perhaps call, text your friends and neighbors and let them know that they should be sheltering in place as well. Spread that word, spread that message. We don't know just how severe and to what extent this chemical release is. Again, this shelter in place likely just as a precaution, but we want to make sure that everyone knows about it. And if you can be that person who informs friends and family who live in Deer Park in case that emergency system notification is not reaching them as well. Again, this is a deadly chemical release at the Pemex facility in Deer Park. Transpired at about 6:30 p.m. this evening. We've seen quite a response here at the facility itself. We know one person died, one person was hospitalized, more people were injured. We have a crew on the way to the scene, but right now at this time all residents of Deer Park are asked to shelter in place. Once we get any updates, we'll come back right back live to you, but in the meantime we're going to keep these images up for you as well.
fully implement.
Good evening, Mia Grady here in the KHOU 11 newsroom. Staying on top of breaking news, a deadly chemical release at the Pemex facility in Deer Park. Coming back with you with some pretty pertinent updates. So we understand that the city of Pasadena has lifted its shelter in place. However, for all residents in Deer Park, you are still asked to shelter in place. Now, the city of Pasadena tweeting or posting earlier on X that Harris County Pollution Control has completed air monitoring and the shelter in place has been lifted. Again, this is just for city of Pasadena residents. We are continuously monitoring for updates from all of the various counties there, the cities, and when I say counties, Harris County, but for all of the various cities there to see if and when the shelter in place in Deer Park will be lifted. But as of right now, that shelter in place in Deer Park stands for all residents. Shelter in place means exactly that. You are to shelter in the home or business that you are in. You are to keep all doors closed, windows closed as well, air conditioning off. This is just out of precaution for your safety because there was a chemical release at the Pemex facility. This is a massive facility. It's a little bit harder to tell taking a look at our live pictures tonight because it is nighttime now, but this is a massive facility and we saw a chemical release happen there at about 6:30 this evening. That release of hydrogen sulfide. Chemical that was released into the air there. We don't know the circumstances of the release. We're working to find out exactly what transpired and caused this to happen. But what we have confirmed is that one person died, one person was hospitalized, several others had to receive medical treatment as well. We have watched here on the ground at the facility itself the response to this chemical release, and we saw several ambulances there on the ground at the facility responding. Actually saw someone being rolled on a gurney into one of these emergency vehicles as well. So working to find out more information here as this situation continues to develop this evening. So hydrogen sulfide, in trying to find out more information about exactly what hydrogen sulfide is, we checked into information from the Texas Commission on Environmental Quality, and that is the TCEQ. You may be very familiar with that. Unfortunately, just because of our experience here and what we are dealing with, whether it's explosion or it's a chemical release. Tonight it is a chemical release, but the TCEQ is the agency that also monitors air quality as well. And just looking at their website and trying to learn more about hydrogen sulfide, it is a colorless gas that smells like rotten eggs, it states. It's produced both naturally and by the human process, emitted by volcanoes, sulfur springs, swamps, and from natural gas and crude petroleum. This is the concerning part. Exposure to high levels of hydrogen sulfide can affect the respiratory and neurological systems. Odors are noticeable at low concentrations and can cause indirect health effects. So we're talking about headache, nausea, and the like as well. So currently on State Highway 225 in both directions near the Beltway, they are closed due to this emergency. So if you're talking to a loved one and they're calling you and saying, hey, look, I'm being rerouted, redirected, what's going on, you can let them know that's a result of the emergency response to this chemical release as well. Hopefully no one's on the road out there at the moment because you should be sheltering in place, but we understand it is early evening. Lots of people headed home from work, but as soon as you arrive where you can, if you are in Deer Park because you've been asked to shelter in place, you need to go ahead and get inside, indoors as quickly as possible. Make sure all doors are tightly shut, all windows are closed, and that AC is off as well. Again, we've been watching, we don't have our picture right now, we're working to get it back up, but we have been watching, well, our chopper has cleared the scene, but we have been watching developments there in Deer Park and just getting new information Yes, 225 both directions. Thank you so much. Our producer is bringing information as it comes in. I appreciate it. 225 closed in both directions. That again, area close to the Pemex facility where we've seen this breaking news happen. Again, we're dealing with a deadly chemical release at the Pemex facility in Deer Park, a massive facility there, a big employer in the area as well. We have a crew there on the scene. They're working to gather information right now, get updates, likely from Pemex and of course from emergency responders as well, to learn exactly what happened, what caused this chemical release, just how much of that chemical was emitted into the air. We know from earlier communications that there is some expected flaring. So you might see sparks of what appears to be flames coming from the Pemex facility. We did receive that notification. Again, the very latest information, important for you and your loved ones who live in both Pasadena and Deer Park. The shelter in place in Pasadena has been lifted. However, the shelter in place in Deer Park remains. And again, the Pemex facility is in Deer Park. The shelter in place in Deer Park remains at this time. We're going to continue to work and find out more information. And just as soon as we learn more, or if we learn about the shelter in place being lifted, we'll come back on and let you